This
There are many
conference will now be recorded.
yeah, there are many BPM tools in the market, but Appian is one of them. Appian. Okay. So when I want to use this tool, uh, first of all, what are the BPM and standards? And for example, let me duplicate. I told right yesterday we have discussed about this OMG group, Object Management Group, how the uh, how the notations have been introduced, like flowchart and all, and what are the meanings of the each and every notation. That also we have discussed. So BPM, not certification, sorry, OMG BPMN, yeah, BPMN 2.0. Okay, so the regular applications which we are implementing using normal technologies, they were involving too many technologies, and there are too many different type of persons has to be involved. If you remember, for example, for UI UX, the web designer, we need database administrator, server administrator. For programming language, we need the technology expert. Something to implement one application, we need to depend on many different people. But what this OMG group have done is, to fulfill all the different kind of functionalities, they have introduced one, notations kind of thing, the standards. They have implemented some standards where those standards were for each and every different operation, for database operations, for logical operations, for user interface operations, for every different kind of operations, they have provided different kind of data, what I can say, different kind of notations. So basic BPMN elements. BPMN is business process modeling notation, and those notations. What are those notations? Here they have given us, for example, if the notation, the notation in the form of a symbols, if symbol is circle, then we can use it for an event, start event or end event, start event or end event. And for activity means for any user interface, user interaction, we can use the activity, which is a square, which is an activity. And if it is a gateway, means decisions, we can use the rambus like thing. And the connectors, the flow, to continue the flow, we can use the bar with an arrow, right? So there are different kind of what I can say, symbols, notations has been provided by this group to make sure standardize the uh, application across any tool. For example, I hope you guys know little bit idea about database. For example, if I want to get the data from a table, like if I want to get the from data from a table, for example, employee is a table, then I can use select a star from EMP, or employee is a table name. Okay, if I use this, then what I'll get? If I use this command, what I'll get is I'll get all the columns and all the rows from the employee table. And the same select star from these are the keywords. So the same keywords, I can use any one of the database. Yes or no? The same command I can use either in the MS SQL, sorry, not only SQL, there is no only SQL, MS SQL or Oracle or PostgreSQL or MySQL, MariaDB. There are many database tools, but any database tool, can I use the same command or not? If the table is EMP, in any tool, in any database tool, can I use the same language or not? Anyone? Can I use the same, or is it different for every? Is it different for every?
Yeah, it's the
Uh,
same syntax, I think.
so why they need to follow the same syntax here is, see, the database, uh, the tool that they have implemented need to follow certain rules, like, which is by database management, DBMS, database management system. So that DBMS have implemented some kind of SQL, standard query language, and the same query has to be common across all the database tools. Then only, so if they follow those rules, then only it will become a database tool. For example, just a general example, if you take, if I want to, if you want to, if you want to call a vehicle as a car, what the properties it should have is, like, it has to has four wheels, a steering, like, brake, accelerator, or seats, like, so car means, I'm not saying a company, I'm not saying a model, right? So when I'm saying car, it have some basic properties, and that every car will follow the properties, maybe the shape and the features, maybe some additional things may be available, but the basic things will be available for every car in common. Yes or no? Similarly, if I want to make a tool, so if I want to make a tool, then definitely I have to follow some standards, okay, implemented by a system. Like, all the database tools were followed some DBMS, data management system, uh, rules. Similarly, if any BPM tool I want to, like, I can create my own BPM tool also. But if I want to create my own tool, then this 538, this BPM and business process modeling notation, all these rules and regulations have to follow, which is specified by this OMG group, object management group. Okay, but for example, it is my own my BPM tool, right? So for start event, for starting a flowchart, instead of a circle, I will use a rectangle. If I said that, then yeah, use it, but it will not be a become tool, a BPM tool. It will be a morality tool, but it will not become a BPM tool, because I have implemented the same features, but it cannot be the BPM tool, because if you don't follow, uh, if you don't follow the standards, then the tool does not have the recognition of the BPMN. If you don't get the recognition of the BPMN, then it cannot be a BPM tool. Like yesterday also I told, right, like, the ISI mark, or FASI, there are standards, set of standards which are created for certain type of different type of um, industries. For example, if I want to make a company, um, if I want to know whether a company is very good in standards or not, if a company is maintaining very good standards or not, how can I know is, if it have any ISO related certification, ISO 600, ISO, that may be different roles, but if it is having ISO standards, then I can blindly I can say that, like, yeah, but this company following the have the ISO certification, so it is a very good company. Yes or no? Similarly, so for every tool, there should be a standard system. So that system is nothing but this BPM and notations. Okay. So if any organization, sorry, if any tool following implemented by following these rules, then you can say it as a BPM tool. Understood, or any question? Right. So similarly, BPM tools. What are the BPM technologies? List of BPM tools. What are the BPM tools? What, not what is? There are many BPM tools in the market, like so um, there are around maybe between 80 to 100. This is top 16, not top 16. Like I want all the list, but if you have time, so try to search for the list of BPM tools. There are many. Okay, so out of the BPM tools, Appian is also one of the BPM tools. Okay, but any BPM tool you take, the basic model elements. So any BPM tool has to have these notations. Without these notations, if you implement any tool, then it will not be a BPM tool. And Appian is one of the tool which is following these BPM notations exactly, perfectly, and also it additionally provides so many features that can be useful to implement the application more efficiently and fastly for both from both the designer and end user point of view. So why I'm saying designer is, so for example, if I'm implementing an application by writing my own logic, by using some logic, writing lines of code, so much code, and so many configurations, then I'm a developer. But using the BPM tool, you are not developing anything. You will design an application. Okay, so the tool was already developed, but by using the tool, you have to implement your any one of the application. So you are designing the flow by using the standard notations. So that's why usually we are APN designers. But yeah, in the market, everyone say APN developer, APN developer. But APN developer is not the correct word for a person who is working on the APN tool. So app-end developer, who is app-end developer is, we have tool that app-end tool is also implemented by using all these things. Okay, so whoever working for the tool, for example, in the tool, when I click something, am getting a browser, sorry, I'm getting a designer. So whoever working for the designer by using Java and Springs and all in the backend, they were the developers, right? They are the developers, but whoever using the tool, and we are just implementing an application by using the tool, so we are the designer. So for Appian there are three different roles. One is Appian designer, and developer, and administrator. Appian designer, developer, and administrator. So who are the designers is implementing build applications using Appian tool. They were the designers. Who are the developers? Build logic to create or enhance the Appian tool. And who are the administrators? Who are the administrators? Look after, look after the Appian tool after installation. So they will handle upgradation, database connectivity, physical files, memory. So the administrators also will not work inside the tool, but they will work for the configuration and everything. So for the tool. Okay, so these are the three different jobs or positions available from APN point of view. So for developer and administration, this is completely technical. This is completely technical. You must manage, for example, for becoming administrator, you must know all the server, like Unix server, server related, MS Office, WebSphere, Tomcat, server management, server administration, and installation of multiple kind of tools, and to configure them together to make it work. So such kind of functionalities the administration for administration point of view, we should know. But if you want to be a developer, then like Java full stack developer, like who knows all the different options of different technologies of Java by using Eclipse, by using Eclipse in creating some plugins, or Spring Security, Hibernate. So if you know technically sound from the that area point of view, then you can become a Appian developer. Okay, so these two are completely technical, but when you come to the designer, as I mentioned yesterday, like if you guys remember, so for designing, like these two guys are already using technical everything. They have implemented a tool. So for a simple example, if you want to drive a car, what you should know? A basic question. Anyone, if you want to drive a car, what we should know? Do we need to be a car mechanic, or do we need to be a engineer who can build all the parts of the car to attach them to become a complete car? So do we need to know everything of about the car if you want to drive a car?
No, just basics.
Just basics like how the clutch worked, how the
Yeah.
accelerator worked, how the brake worked, how the steering, how to check the sides and all. Okay. So you also same. If you are learning Appian tool, you also need to do the same. You don't need to be technically superior, master in all the languages or technologies which are using for building the tool. But if I'm using the tool, what are the concepts that they have used to implement the tool? How, sorry, how inheritance is working, what is a class, what is an object, how object will take the memory, right? And what is the abstraction, basic object oriented concepts, and some basic knowledge. So only basic knowledge, but as I mentioned, I don't say that without that knowledge also, if you want to learn Appian, it is possible, but it will be difficult, or it will take some more time than usual to become a master in the tool, become a good designer in the tool. Okay, so that is the simple difference I can say. So developers and administrators should be technically full sound, and they have to be masters. They have to be excellent in the technology. Then only these two jobs we can do. But if you want to be a designer, you don't need to be technically sound, but you should know the basics of programming. What is the programming? How program? For example, if I create a program and if I run it, how it will work? For example, if I create a Java program and if I run it, how it will work? Like it has to compile. The class file will convert into sorry, the Java file will convert into class file through the compiler, and when you execute, the interpreter will execute it. Something. So the what is a compiler again? So I'm not saying to know or and to master all these things, but the basic flow. If you know from a programming point of view, it will be easy for you guys to understand how the tool is working, right? Suppose, as I mentioned, the same example, you take car. So if I don't know how much acceleration I have to give, without knowing, if I press the accelerator too hard, what will happen? You can't control it. And without changing the gear, if you try to like so that combination, if you know, then only you can drive it, right? So like that, if you have a basic idea about like any like programming, then it will be, I can say, it will be very much comfortable for you to go through this tool. That's all I can say. Okay. So like that, we can, the Appian tool is one of the BPM tool in the market, uh, which is like a leader mostly in every application. So every domain. So do you guys know domain? What is domain? Anyone? Domain? Anyone? So domain means, For example, the application for whom you are implementing. Yesterday I told to implement an application for a restaurant, right? So restaurant is the business belongs to the food industry, right? Similarly, for example, if I want to implement an application for internet connection, for example, if I apply for internet connection, I want to get the internet connection. There is a process required, right? So where is your address, whether your address contains the service of that provider or not, and what kind of service available, like uh, optic fiber or wired connection or wireless connection. So there is a process required. So that is a telecommunication. And if you want to implement an application for a bank, like to apply for a credit card, to apply for a loan, that is a banking domain. So based on the application you are implementing, that application belongs to what domain, and so the domain have, for example, if I implement a application for a credit card, does it matter that you implement for the State Bank, or does it matter for implementing ICICI or HDFC? It does matter. Does it matter? No, right? So the credit card is common for across all the different banking domains. So the rules and regulations will all almost same, may not be same. The rules for, because some of them may give, for example, credit card, they can redeem points. Some of them can give for 100 1 point. Some of them can for 105 points. That depends. So the rules are different, but the usage of the credit card and the functionality of the credit card may be same across all the different banks. That is banking domain. So domain is nothing but the application that you are implementing belongs to which business area. So simply, if you want to say, the business area is nothing but the domain. So whenever I'm implementing an application, so it is not only to have a uh, technology knowledge, but also if you have some domain knowledge, it is also helpful. But the domain knowledge, as a fresher, you may not have the domain knowledge because you may not work in different kind of domains. So the domain knowledge, obviously, you will get from working across different applications which are from different kind of business areas. Okay, so the domain knowledge, I can't or we can't help it, but the programming language, or the programming knowledge, that must be a prerequisite. Okay, so at least a basic idea. I'm not asking to implement a web application in a Java or Python or .NET to know to implement this Appian tool. But if you know the basics of any language and what are the object-oriented programming, generally in the real time, I don't know what you guys, oops, 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 they will call object oriented programming concepts, right? So oops concepts you should know. Okay, so if you guys don't know, try to get the knowledge, and then you will understand this tool very much easily. Okay, so now that is how, that is the simple introduction, or simple background of Appian, like what are the different kind of roles available and what are the responsibilities. So designer, developer, and administrator. But in real time, in Naukri, LinkedIn, Indeed, so in those they will mention Appian developer, but what they mean. So the industry terminology, developer means they are looking for designing applications using Appian tool. Okay, but we should not. But from technology point of view, we are not developers, we are designers. Okay, so what Appian contains? For example, so Appian, like high level overview, what Appian contains. Appian composed with the 6 different software components, like a front end server, web application, and backend database, right? And one or more search servers for searching the data, and relational database, right? And a data service application. Data service is nothing but like a Hibernate something. Hibernate, and the internal messaging tool, like JMS, Java Messaging Service. Like it can send a mail or the objects internally communicate themselves. Right? There are many there are many technologies were involved, but for exposing those to the end user, they can divide into six components. But we no need to worry about this, any of this. Just I'm saying, you will have an idea. So Appian architecture. Yeah, I hope you are able to see the I hope you are able to see the screen and completely, and you are seeing, you may see the words clearly. If not, let me know. Okay. So this image, yeah, this image will tells us this image will tells us this architecture of Appian. As I mentioned, build, extend, administer. Okay, build, extend, and administer. So build, to build the applications, we must be a designer. Extend, extend means extend Appian capabilities, means extend the tool capabilities. To extend the tool capabilities, what I have to do? I have to create a logic. I have to create some logic, and I have to put it into the APN tool so that additional features will be available. That means Appian developer. And administer, manage site-wide configurations. So it means site-wide means wherever you install that application Appian. So look after the Appian tool after the installation. Okay. So these three are the, and use is nothing but the end user. After implement, if I implement an application, who will use that? The end users or the customers will use that. So though they were the use, but from Appian point of view, there are three jobs that you can see is build, extend, and administer. Build is the Appian designer, extend is the Appian developer, and administer is the Appian administrators. Okay, so these three are the these things. And this discover is nothing but what are the new features, what else we can implement, something like that. So to make a research, continuous research on the tool, though those are the discover. But anyway, we can also do that parallelly along with the design. But we don't need to worry about that. But in Appian, you can do three different type of functionalities: design, develop, and administration. These three you can do. Okay, but for now we are discussing about design, because we are not discussing about all the technologies and how to implement an APN tool. And also we are not discussing about how to maintain the servers and requests and response, database configurations, plugins, right? All those we are not going to maintain. We are simply using the tool that have been given by Appian to us. Okay, so there are three layers, and the fourth one will be the additional one. But yeah, Appian contains three layers: interfaces, services, and data. So one simple example, I told you, login. For example, login. If I want to use a login, or if I want to register a customer or register a user, I want to register a user. So what I have to do if I want to register a user? First, on the interface, I have to fill the user details, first name, last name, some details you have to enter, right? So when you enter the user details, and you will click register. So when you click register, what will happen? These user details will carry forward as a request to the server. Okay, these user details will carry forward as a request to the server. So now what server will do? So I'm requesting this server to save those details. Like if I registering a user means you need to save those details, right? Then only that user can log in again and again. Yes or no? Right? So if the user details is saved, then only he can log in again and again. So the server has to save the data. So by taking the details from the interface, and the data will be saved into the database. Okay, once the data is saved successfully, then what will happen? For the user, an ID will be created. Then what the database will do? What the database will do? Database will sorry, database will use give that ID. Database will give that ID and it will give it to the server. And what server will do? Server will take that ID and it will give it back to user. So then what we will get is registered successfully. It will get this. Yes or no? So this is what happening, right? So the user will enter the details as a request and server will take the details and pass to the database. Database will save the data and then it will return that ID and the server will take it as a response and the response will give back to the user. So this is what happening. Like in the entire Appian tool, you perform any operation any number of times, this will happen every time. You will you will pass some data to the you will pass the data as a request to the server and the server will send to the database, or sometimes it may not be the database, sometimes it can be a normal file system also. File system means if I upload a document cannot be saved in the database for example, but the document can save physically, so that physical file can save into a folder. But whatever it may be, the server will take the data and it will save it to the respective database or file system. Then, as a response, it will give the token. Means, boss, this data has been saved or it is been created. This is what the ID. With the ID, it will return the response to the end user. So, if you see these three, the same is happening in the architecture as well. So, interface, service, and the data. So from the interface, either we want to design, so we can design so many different objects, and that object will processed in the server, and that is a service. The processing of the data through a server is a service. Okay, so usually Appian is using Apache server, and then it will pass to the database. So it can be a database, or it can be a search server, or it can be a file system. It doesn't matter. Okay, but these are the three layers in the APN architecture that you can design, then the server will take care of the transaction and the data will be saved or processed from the database or file system. Okay, so there are I don't want to confuse you with what are Appian engines, set servers and all, but for us, because we don't know, we can't see them. So we don't need to worry about them. So we can worry about the designer only, because from the tool I can do only this thing. But the entire operations, what you are seeing here, these are all that services and data is completely in the backend. We can never see, because the tool that we are using is a cloud instance, means from the cloud we are accessing. But if you are having on premises, then we can see all these things, where the server is routing, and where the database is installed, location of the database, and where the file system and all, and what are the engines that were running in the backend. All those things I could have shown you, but we are not using the on premises. So the Appian can work using two different ways. One is on premises and another one is cloud. On premises is nothing but physical installation of the Appian in a system and using that. That is on premises. And cloud means just we'll get a URL like this. Just will get a URL, and if you access that URL, so this is the Appian tool. So this URL we are using from the cloud, and this is the Appian tool. So there are different features like an admin console, designer, cloud database. There are different features, and there are different objects. All of them we'll discuss. Okay, but yeah, just my intention is to explain you, like what are the different layers in the Appian. Okay. So that is what is happening in the Appian from the backend, the tool. But see now, I hope you guys understand now why I'm saying at least the object-oriented programming. So if you know how a program functions, how a program executes, then this is a basic idea. You will get a basic idea from this architecture. But if you completely a non-IT background, boss, what is this server? What is this database? What is this website? What are all this? It is quite difficult to digest or quite difficult to understand. But I'm not saying you should be expert. If you know what is a server, is fine. But you may not, you may need not know how that functions. What we have to do to make it work. What are the commands to configure it? Like there are many things, but you don't need to do all the things. But if you know what is a server, what it will do, that's all. From theory point of view. So why I'm saying all these things is before, whenever you get time, because you guys are maybe some of them are from IT, you guys might understand some of them from non-IT. So for those who are from non-IT, I'm giving this suggestion. So whenever you get time, so uh, try to get my words, or try to get the words I'm saying, try to search for them, try to know about them. Okay. So this documentation is open, like it is a, so docs.appian.com. So if you docs.appian.com, then directly you will get that, you will get this documentation, and in the administration and extending APN, and even in the quick links. So these are all available. This APN architecture is in the administration. Click on the architecture, you will get this information. Okay. So but guys, one thing I'm telling you, so if you, without knowing whatever I'm explaining, without knowing, if you want to learn, you can learn, but it will be a bit difficult going forward to understand uh, the tool functionality, how it's functioning. It will be difficult to understand the tool functionality. Okay. So try to uh, go through some of the technical concepts, like what are the object-oriented concepts, how server will work, right? How the file system will work. Like no, so if you already from the IT background, you might guys already gone through those concepts. Just you can revise. But from non-IT, you guys better to learn at least the basics of the any programming language, so that it will be easy to understand. Okay. So as I mentioned, this contains build, extend, and administrator. So build, so to implement the administrator, sorry, to implement the application, sorry, to implement the application, we can use design and embedded. These two are using to implement the or to design the application. Sites Tempo and Appian portals. These two are using for the end user interaction, and administration console. This is for the administrator. So administration console, these are used to configure the tool properties. Like, for example, if you open any tool, for example, if you are in go to meeting, like, if I want to do something, I have to do setting. Go to the setting, like, adjust the camera, adjust the audio, adjust the names and all, meeting, like, so the settings, how we have the settings, how we can configure this tool. Similarly, to configure the Appian tool, we can use the administration console, like what kind of language you have to use in that, because this Appian is using across the geography, like, in all the continents the Appian is using. um, so every in India itself we have around 160, around 2000 languages. I don't know but exactly, but there are these many languages. So Appian supporting some of the languages across the geography, like Spanish, Japanese, French, Chinese, Arabic. There are tools. So I will show you what are the languages it supports. But so these tools, if you want to configure the languages or time zones, or if you want to add additional plugins, like, to maintain the tool, you can go for the administration console. Okay, so these are the basics or architecture to start the APN. So in the next session we'll discuss about the actual Appian tool. So we have seen the architecture, right? How this will work actually, what is the tool, how to log in and all. I will discuss with you guys. Okay, that's all for now from my side, because the next one will be the explanation of the tool, but that I don't think that will complete in 5 or 10 minutes. It will take more than half an hour. So that will start in the next session. How this tool, what are the tool contents, all of those things. Okay, Kumar, like, you can stop the recording.